Hey guys, what's up, it's Alex here. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, it might be a bit of a controversial one. I'm going to try and go through my top 5 tracks on the F1 2019 calendar. Well, we all have a different opinion on this one, so I completely understand if you disagree with me on this one. But I'd just like to hear your top 5 in the comment section down below. But listen to my opinions for why these are my favourite tracks on the calendar. And I'll also give a few bonus ones at the end of this one. So, let's jump into this. So, I think Sao Paulo in Brazil, that's one of my favourite tracks on the calendar because it always seems to provide great racing. And I think that's always mixed in with the fact that the weather there is, to say the best, unpredictable. I do always wish that this was the championship decider. The fact that Abu Dhabi is the championship decider somewhat takes it away from me. I don't particularly like that. I like that Brazil was always a very interesting finale to any championship. So that's somewhat spoiled by the end of season change to go to Abu Dhabi. But Sao Paulo, a track which is mixed up with quite a few different areas. Of course, you've got the long sort of isn't straight bit across the start finish line down to turn 1, and that starts way back. I mean, I don't know how long it is, but I think it's at least over a kilometre long. It's a crazy long straight. It's a very, very long straight, and some exciting overtakings happen there throughout the years. Then once you go through the center S's and then down the next straight there, you get into a very different part of the track, which is tight and twisty, which I think what makes this track great is it tests the characteristics of the car. You need to have a good car in a straight line, but you also need to have a good car through the tight and the twisty bits, through high speed corners, through low speed corners. It really tests all areas of the car. And at the same time, it's wide enough to make great, exciting racing. But if you do make a mistake, you're off into the barriers because there isn't any gravel there. I mean, okay, they have tarmacked over some of the grassy areas, but still, there isn't really many gravel areas, if any gravel areas, around the Brazilian Grand Prix track. So if you make a mistake, you're generally going to get punished for it with either a damaged car or a loss of time. The latter doesn't seem to be happening too much on these new tracks where you can just sort of run off and, well, escape scot-free. So that's why Sao Paulo's on my list, a favourite track of mine. I really, really enjoy it. By the way, my top 5 isn't really in any sort of order. I'm just sort of putting them as a top 5. I don't really have a favourite, but these are just my overall top 5. So Sao Paulo is one on the list. Next up is Monza, one I visited a couple of times in real life, and I loved it every time. Not only is the atmosphere absolutely fantastic, but generally it provides pretty interesting racing, and that's the fact because it's a load of long straights, which might not seem like the most interesting thing in the world, but Monza typically does provide quite a few overtakes because of those long straights. It gives an opportunity for people to overtake. So I know a lot of people might say that this isn't, or hasn't been over the last couple of years, the most exciting Grand Prix in the world, which I understand. I think 2018 was pretty good. Kimi Raikkonen versus Lewis Hamilton, the tyre degradation battle towards the end of the race was exciting, and we did have quite a few exciting moments throughout that 2018 Grand Prix. 2017 wasn't so exciting with Mercedes dominance, but in general I would say that over the last couple of years it hasn't been the most thrilling Grand Prix in the world. I would wholly admit that, but I would say that's more down to the car regulations more than the actual track. The actual track, from my childhood growing up watching Formula 1, it's always seemed to provide some really, really close battles, and I always like that it sort of throws up a bit of a trump card because, you know, the teams that maybe didn't have the greatest overall car could come to Monza and have a good result. Maybe I'm slightly biased because my all-time favourite Formula 1 driver is Adrian Sutil, and this was his best ever Grand Prix finish, was at Monza, and if he had the KERS, he would have won. Sorry, probably wouldn't have won. He would have at least got a podium in that race, and that would have made me a lot happier, I guess, as an Adrian Sutil fan, if he'd got that career podium at that Italian Grand Prix in 2009. But alas, it wasn't the case. But I think, as I've been saying, Monza, it throws up those anomalies where people can turn up with probably not the best car for 90% of the season, or not with the car that is very competitive for 90% of the season, and they can come there and be decent. I mean, we look back to, was it 2017, where Lance Stroll was on the front row of the grid at the Italian Grand Prix through legitimate pace. Like, something like that is really exciting to me. The fact that Monza can really throw up a surprise and throw up an underdog to come through and get a good result. So I think that's the reason why I like Monza. Maybe over the last couple of years I've been saying hasn't provided the most fantastic racing on the calendar, but for me it's always going to be hard to knock Monza off my top 5 Formula 1 tracks in a particular season because just the history, the fans there, and the racing's pretty good. Even though in maybe 2017, 2018 it wasn't fantastic, it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. Better than, I'd say, at least half of the tracks on the calendar. But nonetheless, let's move on to what many people would say is the best track in Formula 1. Yes, you've probably guessed it by now. The Belgian Grand Prix Spa. By a lot of people's standards, this is the best track on the Formula 1 calendar, as this has an absolute mix of everything. We talked about Brazil having a nice mix between certain parts of the tracks and others, but Spa is just a complete, I don't know what the right word is now. It's gone from my head, but it's very different. Like, one side of the track, long straight. The other side of the track is very tight, and for high-speed corners, it's twisty. So, getting the right setup for Spa is so important. You can make maybe a tiny change, and it can either cost you a second or gain you a second, because of course as you go out through Radio Rouge, you want to be carrying the speed, you want to have the downforce through a Rouge, but I think with these modern day Formula 1 cars, whatever setup you sort of put on their car, it's generally going to be pretty much flat out, at least in qualifying. And then by the end of the straight, you obviously want to be carrying a lot of speed, but then you hit the brakes, you go through the next sequence of corners, and then it gets all tight and twisty, and you need the efficient aerodynamics. You need the car to be sucking to the ground and being very sticky through the corners. So getting the right setup at Spa is so interesting, and I think the fact that, like we were saying with Brazil, it always throws up a bit of a change in the weather. Something crazy always does happen at Spa in terms of that. I think that's always exciting as well. So I think Spa provides the great racing. From what I've heard and people that have been to the Belgian Grand Prix, it's a really exciting Grand Prix to visit, and it's pretty cheap as well. So if you're in Europe, I think it's on the bucket list. You've got to go there at least once in your lifetime, and it's definitely on my bucket list. I mean, maybe not in the foreseeable future, but I would love to go to the Belgian Grand Prix and watch this race live. Hopefully not one of the ones where it's pouring down with rain, but I guess you just get the luck of the draw with that one. But nonetheless, the Belgian Grand Prix, in my opinion, pretty much every year throws up a great race, and I think that's very tough. And even with the changing evolution of Formula 1 cars, to throw up a good race, a truly fantastic race every single year is really great. Through all of the rule changes, Spa always seems to deliver, which I think is fantastic. And in my opinion, if I was to say maybe the best Grand Prix track on the Formula 1 calendar, it probably would be leaning towards Spa, just because of that. The fact that every year we go there, it's always different, it's always good, and always very exciting. But maybe let your opinions be heard in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me on that one? Do you think Spa is the number one? I'm not saying it, but I'm sure most people would maybe put it that way. Okay then, next one on this list is Montreal. So I went to this Grand Prix a couple of years ago, back in 2017. I personally loved this adventure. It was really great. I loved Canada. I loved the Grand Prix. I was sitting at the grandstand through turn 1, so I saw some of the accidents, some of the drama, and I think a bit like Monza, I think Montreal can throw up a surprise, partly due to its nature of some long straights, and also the lack of tight and twisty bits. Always seems to mean that a team, maybe an underdog, can come through and have a good performance. I think maybe that's what we kind of want as Formula 1 fans, is great racing and for a surprise result. And a lot of the time, Monza, Montreal, Spa, they throw up these, because I didn't even mention it at Spa, but of course you remember back to 2009, Force India got their first ever podium in their second season of the sport at Spa, and then they nearly matched it in Monza the race after, because Spa and Monza are just different. They're different from the rest of the grid, and the fact that Force India nearly grabbed 2 really great results in a row. They did get 2 great results, but still, they nearly got a win and then a podium thereafter. I think just shows how good those races are for the underdogs. And I think Montreal's somewhat of the same. I don't think it provides quite as exciting racing as Spa or Monza or Sao Paulo. To be perfectly honest, even though I love Montreal, in my opinion, I prefer watching racing there from there. I don't know what the exact reason is for that, but I prefer watching racing from there than some other ones I've mentioned on this list already. But still, maybe it's because it's a street track and maybe the margins forever are very small, so you're seeing drivers on the limit. I think that is something that is fantastic about Montreal, is the fact that, you make a mistake, there's not even a runoff area most of the time. You're in the wall and you've been damaged, or you've lost a lot of time because of your silly mistake. And in a Formula 1 car, it's a very easy thing to do because, of course, Formula 1 cars are absolute beasts of cars, and it's probably hard for us to ever imagine what it's like to drive one. But for Montreal as a track, I think that over the last couple of years, maybe the most recent sort of evolutions in terms of the car design, the car rules, probably haven't quite lended itself to fantastic races at Montreal. I think maybe since 2017, well, I mean the last two Grand Prix there maybe haven't been the most fantastic. I think they've been, you know, okay, they've been good, but they haven't been like top draw from what I remember. Obviously I can't remember every Grand Prix I've watched in my lifetime, but yeah, maybe I'm forgetting something, but maybe the most recent sort of fatter Formula 1 cars, grippier Formula 1 cars struggle to provide fantastic racing around there. But from the era before that, obviously you had the amazing battles where Button came through the field after like 5 pit stops to win the Grand Prix. You have surprise results in there. I remember Force India typically went quite well there in the past as well, so which is probably part of the reason why I'm being a bit biased as a Adrian Sutil and Force India fan back in the day. But once again, I think it provided really close racing. I remember back to something like 2012, just crazy racing throughout. I just loved the Grand Prix. I have loved the Grand Prix forever. As I've said already, I don't think it provides quite as good racing in the modern era of Formula 1 as some of the other ones on this list. But for some reason, maybe it's because it's a street track, I do still prefer watching a Grand Prix at this venue. Maybe you guys can hit the nail on the head about why Montreal is a special track, because maybe I haven't done so in this video, but in my opinion it is a special track, and it is one that I think most of you should endeavour to go and watch it in your lifetime in real life, because I love the experience, and maybe that's part of the reason why it's still so special to me, is because, you know, I've been there, I've enjoyed that experience, I lived it for a couple of days and I absolutely loved it. So maybe you can let me know in the comment section down below whether you agree with me on that one or not. Alright then, this is the most controversial one by far on this list. I know maybe a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, because I just can see you disagreeing with me on this one, because I've missed out on some very, very big name tracks. Okay, I built it up now. Bahrain. Okay, wait a second before you leave the comment. I don't know why, or what it is about Bahrain. The characteristics of the track, the high degradation, maybe it being under the lights as well at night time. Something just seems to be quite special about Bahrain, and it more often than not provides some thrilling racing. Okay, evidence in case. The 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix, one of the best Grand Prix we've seen in recent years. It was all over the place. We were hoping to get this new Formula 1 winner in Charles Leclerc. He totally deserved it. He dominated all race weekend, and maybe that's because he just does fantastic at this track. He'd done so in F2 in the years prior, and he was on course. And then we had a bit of heartbreak with his error. Lewis Hamilton somehow out of nowhere bringing home a Mercedes 1-2. But nonetheless, there was action throughout the race, and I think that's due to the characteristics of the Bahrain circuit. And something about this, Tilke's, in my opinion, one of his best, if not best track he's ever designed, is this Grand Prix track right here in Bahrain. Well, not right here, but you know what I mean. Bahrain is, in my opinion, one of the best tracks in terms of watching Grand Prix races in the modern era. I've included some tracks on this list which maybe don't provide the greatest racing in this era, but from what I can remember over the last sort of 7 or 8 years, the Bahrain Grand Prix always throws up some surprises, always provides great racing. We remember back to the 2014 Bahrain Grand Prix where Lewis Hamilton versus Rosberg for the last few laps of the race. I mean, maybe it's because Bahrain typically throws up safety cars, which can also help provide great racing, but at the same time, Baku does also provide a lot of action because of the safety cars, but maybe it's only because it's in its infancy. I haven't put Baku on this list because maybe we haven't been proved yet, but I'm being honest, I really like the Bahrain Grand Prix as a racetrack. I think it provides the sort of racing that we'd like to see most race weekends. Okay, maybe I don't know whether I'm being slightly biased because the most recent Grand Prix was the Bahrain Grand Prix, which went so well. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on that one in the comment section down below. I've also thrown on some extra ones to the end of this video because I know you'd hate me if I didn't include them. Suzuka, one of the most fascinating, if not the most fascinating Grand Prix venue to watch a car, because you're seeing them on the limit, seeing them through the S's at the start of the lap, pitching from one side to the next. It's absolutely fantastic to watch them through there. in my opinion, doesn't provide the greatest racing in the world. That's the reason why I didn't include it on this list. I don't think it really lends itself to close sort of battles out on track. It's normally, especially in the most recent era of Formula 1, down to DRS overtakes, because otherwise it'd be very hard to overtake. And the next one on my list is the Hockenheim race. So, in my opinion, another really good Grand Prix venue, one that does provide great racing most years. Obviously, the 2018 Grand Prix was a pretty fascinating one where we thought we were going to see a home hero victory, and then it all slipped away from him. That's always interesting. Hockenheim does provide good racing, and in my opinion it's up there with one of the best Grand Prix circuits, but I didn't quite include it in my top 5 because I don't think it delivers quite as many great Grand Prix as the next. Maybe because we've been unlucky to not have it on the Grand Prix calendar every single year. Maybe that's the part of the reason why, but nonetheless it's a great Grand Prix venue. And I can make a case for every Grand Prix track on this calendar in 2019 being good in some way or the other, but I'm being honest. I really like the Grand Prix that I put in my top 5 here. Whether you agree with me or not, I know a lot of people are probably going to call me out for Bahrain, which is completely fine. Maybe even Montreal as well. I completely understand if you disagree with me, but just, you know, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below instead of hating on me, because, you know, if you leave like, I don't know, maybe a bad Grand Prix as your best, maybe I'll reply. Nah, don't worry. I just want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I really appreciate your time watching this video. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Please remember to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. More content will be coming soon. I think as you're watching this, or around the time you're watching this, I'm competing in my first ever motor race, so a lot of my focus has been on that, and I'm recording it for a university documentary which has been taking up all of my time, so that's why I'm only squeezing out sort of 1 or 2 videos a week, and I apologise for that, but hopefully it's for a good enough reason. I'm really excited to show this documentary to you in about a month's time now. It's crazy that sounds. Just about a month's time I'll get this video up on my channel. I really hope you enjoy it, because our university lecturers are giving it lots of positive praise, and that doesn't come too often because we obviously get a lot of critique, and to hear great feedback is really helping us out. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys all around soon. It's been Alex, I'm out here. Goodbye.